Hi everyone, my name's Jake, and today I'm doing a presentation on, a policy that there should be a policy federally that officers should be charged with excessive force or causing severe injury to a civilian that may or may not lead to death. Today, the issues people are having with officers today is that they're very hard to prosecute, and what brought that to light was what happened with George Floyd. You Derek Chauvin has a knee on his throat. And, George was couldn't breathe. He kept saying he couldn't breathe, and Derek Chauvin ultimately caused his death. And, you had the protests and riots that lasted for days, for a couple of days, and he wasn't even charged. Derek Chauvin wasn't even charged for, like, on that day, George Floyd died. He wasn't charged at all. It took a couple of days of protests and, torch and destroyed all that for him to finally get charged. And I think he just should have been immediately charged. It shouldn't take that long. And this is the reason, those protests happened in the first place was because of Derek Chauvin. And, the state should have just charged him in the beginning. And which leads me to my statistics on, the amount of officers that are charged at all for any reason. And let me just show you. The dark green is basically the amount of officers that year that got charged, and the orange, the light orange is officers that didn't get charged. And this I think it's chart by the AP actually 538. Some guy named Henry Wallace created this chart because you finding information of officers getting charged at all or convicted is very rare to find because the FBI doesn't post it at all. So this guy put it upon his hands to actually find information on officers that are convicted. In 2015, amount of officers that weren't convicted skyrocketed for some reason, and it's been increasing each year. And here's the reason why we should have policy where officers should be getting charged for the use of excessive force. And I think it'd better help. Please use methods or think more strategically rather than just going in gung ho, that sort of thing. And I think it'd put better trust in our system. People will trust our system, will believe in us, will believe in the justice system itself. That way, if we're charging officers, it shows that they're not all powerful. They're not like gods. They too can be struck down, that sort of thing. For using for doing anything wrong, excessive force, and so on. Which leads me to my next point of an article by the AP News. It was about, I think, the Atlanta riots that were going on. And then these two were, stuck in their car, traffic, and then these officers come up to their car, for no reason at all. They start yanking on the door handle, and then, the two in the car are confused. They don't even know what's going on. And so eventually the passenger ended up opening her door, and she's about to get out, and this officer tases her for no reason at all. That use of excessive force was not warranted at all. And they do the same thing to the driver, and he gets tased too. And things go on, that sort of thing. And 4 were put on administrative leave, and 2 ended up getting fired. And what happened to the driver was that he ended up getting a gash that needed 24 stitches, I believe, and he ended up having a fractured arm. And how none of the officers were charged for that at all makes no sense at all. Like, how? He should have been charged. That was just excessive. There's no point to it. The use of using a taser at all there was just no use for it. That's just excessive, and they should have been charged. Which leads me to my next point about wandering officers. The Washington Post called them wandering officers because of them. They get fired and they can just go to another department and get rehired. And that's just wrong. That shouldn't even be happening. It's cool. There's some exceptions to it, but if they're fired for the use of excessive force on like a civilian or like the cause of death of a civilian, anything like that, they should be fired. but they should be charged at the same time to make it harder for them to even get hired at all. Like, sex afford. That's why I'm saying a policy instilling, charging officers with excessive force if something goes down like that, or causing a severe injury to a civilian may or may not paralyze them, cripple them, that sort of thing. And yeah, that's what I think about why officers should be charged. It's gonna just make it harder for them. And some people are gonna say, officers do their day by day. They're doing their best to live. They're just trying to survive just like the rest of us. They're on edge every day. They don't. They pull people over. People say they pull people over, and that they don't know who you are. They don't know what you have on you. They just see you, and they don't know what else to think about it. And they're right, but in the end, officers should be charged for what they're doing, or I should say, if they use excessive force at all, or injuring a civilian at all, that may warrant them to go to the hospital. That sort of thing. Like, they shouldn't even be on the job at all if they're that like excessive. And kind of like that. Which is on to my next one about was it 1991? Rodney King was in a high-speed chase. So eventually, it's over. He pulls off. Officers pull up on him, yank him out of the car. You think they're gonna put him in handcuffs, search his car and all that. They don't do that. He's basically just he's taken out of the car, but they're just beating on him for no reason at all. And I just think it's wrong because you have what I think some of these officers ended up, according to the Business Insider, I believe, cops. I think some of the cops ended up. Oh, the reason why the riots even happened first was because I think these cops got indicted with excessive force, or they got charged with excessive force and assault. But eventually, these charges eventually got dropped, which is what led to the riots of 1992. And in the first place, I don't know why those charges got dropped at all. They should have just stuck with them. That made no sense. It just showed how officers, are untouchable. And I don't think that was right. Even though they, some of them got charged later on, but the charge being dropped at all was just wrong. Which leads me, to my conclusion is that charging police officers, I think, would better help. People the people trust our system a little more, and that it'll help officers think more, be more elaborate in what they're doing. And I think it would better help our communities, and I think it would better instill more confidence in our nation.